Oh, we love to talk about music. Arroe.net, ARROE.net. Let's do it. Let's play it forward. These are real people, real stories. Episode number 437 is with Robert Bartko from George Michael Reborn.
Hey, buddy. How are you?
Always one step ahead. How about you?
I'm doing good, man. I was reading up on you. You're a pretty cool dude, man.
Oh, I'm just one of those freaks. You know how creative people are. We're just weird people.
I know we are, but I just love how diversified you are with the black belt and martial arts and everything. It's pretty cool.
You know, it's part of the journey, and I know that you've probably been on one as well, where you have so much energy inside of you, and the question is, what are you going to do with it? And I love what you're doing with yours because you're affecting people on that stage.
Oh, well, thank you. It's really cool to be here on a call with you. So thank you. And it looks like you're doing the same with your life as well.
Always moving forward. I mean, I always tell people, it's like when they sit there and they're mopey and they're feeling down, you just go, come on, let's just walk. Let's just continue the journey and look at what you're doing. Like I said, when I first read about you, the first thing I remembered was that at Cook Radio in the 1980s there was this new band called Wham. We couldn't find the record anywhere in the radio station, so I had to go to a music store to buy it so we could play "Wake Me Up" on the radio.
Oh my gosh, you just described the good old days. We actually went to our brick and mortar record store. Oh my gosh. Remember how special that was to actually go and flip through vinyl?
Yes.
It was so cool, and you just, it was just such an anticipation of when a new record would come out for your favorite band, It was so cool.
Well, I fell into that when I was trying to find Staying Alive by the Bee Gees, and I ended up buying Edge of the Universe from the Bee Gees, and people go, why didn't you buy the hit song? Because I like this one.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Now, do you still have vinyl records?
I do.
Yeah. Me too.
It's the inside sleeve of that album is my favorite place to travel.
Oh, that's so cool. Oh my gosh, man. Oh my gosh. People these days don't know what they're missing in terms of just being able to open up like an album, sometimes a threefold, and just look at that artwork and stuff, So cool.
What was the craziest thing that you did with an album? And the reason why I bring that up, because I'll never forget, I had never seen a double album before, like Frampton Comes Alive. And the thing is that I took it back because I said, you gave me two. I wasn't supposed to have two albums. I only paid for one. So what's the craziest thing you've ever done?
Oh my gosh, two stories come to mind. One of them was actually quite recent. I don't know if this is crazy, but it was kind of crazy, at least in my mind, is I got invited to a concert of Kenny Loggins a few years ago, and it was in a very wealthy private community here in Utah where he was kind of coming to perform for the very wealthy people of this neighborhood. And I thought to myself, for some strange reason, I am going to meet Kenny Loggins tonight. I'm going to hang out with Kenny. And so I packed up the car with a bunch of my Kenny Loggins vinyl, Kenny Loggins songbooks. And sure enough, long story short, had got invited after the show to a private home party with Kenny Loggins. I'm like, this is unbelievable.
Wow.
I must have wished this into existence. Sure enough, show up at the house. They gave me the address because the people saw the enthusiasm I had at this show. Sadly for these rich people, these really wealthy people, this was just like, oh, Kenny Loggins. And they're like, I'm not joking, 30 yards back from the stage. I am right at the feet of Kenny Loggins, losing my mind, singing every lyric. And Kenny just zoned in on me. It was almost like he was giving me a private show. And then the drummer, the legendary Tris Imboden, came up afterwards and gave me a pair of sticks.
Wow.
He kneeled down from the stage, said, thanks for your enthusiasm in the show. Okay, so what's the story with the vinyl? I get to meet Kenny Loggins at this, and I said, I had a feeling I was going to meet you tonight. would you mind if I run to the car? I brought a bunch of my Kenny Loggins memorabilia. I'd love for you to sign. He said, absolutely. So bring it in. He's like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen this songbook since like the 70s. And he signed the vinyl records, so and the songbook. So that was kind of the craziest thing. And you know, Kenny said to me, he goes, man, you were tuned in. He goes, you knew every nuance of every word. And I was like, yeah, I'm a huge fan of yours. And it was the funniest thing, too. When we hang up here, I'll send you the picture. But people were like, my gosh, you and Kenny look like you could be father and son, you know? So I got pictures with them. That was the craziest thing I'd ever done with a vinyl record. Threw it in a car, assuming I'd meet the amazing Kenny Loggins that night. But yeah.
Speaking of people who play the acoustic guitar and acoustic sets and stuff like that, how did you grow from your acoustic sets to what you do, you know, with George Michael Reborn? I mean, it's a full-blown show.
Oh man, that's a great question. So, you know, you must have did your research. My bread and butter has been playing acoustic guitar throughout. You know, I had a career back in the 90s writing and producing for some bigger artists, but George Michael had always been incredibly influential in my life from the time of high school. And when I opened my mouth to sing back in high school, I sounded like George. And so I went on throughout the 90s to have a career as a writer, producer, and also some little solo career in dance music. And that, you know, eventually kind of died out. And but back in 2018, I had a little bit of a resurgence of my dance career. I released some new music. And every agent that would call me to book me for my own dance music, and these are just, I was getting these shows, but they were just lame. They're these little track shows, and they didn't pay very much. And it was starting to like become comical because every agent would say to me, hey, I'm calling you about your Robert Barco dance music, blah, blah, blah. And I go, has anybody ever told you sound and look like George Michael? Wow. And they would all say this: if you could put together a George Michael tribute show, we could book the crap out of that compared to your original music. So I started to hear it enough that in 2019, threw together a show, contacted an agent. My very first show was the Anaheim House of Blues, sold it out like crazy beyond capacity. The line was a mile around the door. They couldn't get everybody in. I don't know if you've heard of the Sexy Sax Man, but he ended up appearing in the show playing Careless Whisper.
Oh, wow.
And so from there, it was like, oh my gosh, this thing's got some traction immediately. And so there from, August, September, October, November, December, like shows just started pouring in. And so that was kind of, that's kind of how, it shifted gears from acoustic guitar to like, let's do a full-blown show.
Wow.
And yes, some cool things came out of that little time between, August of 2019 and the shutdown due to COVID. Yeah. But it was crazy.
You're going to be in this neck. You're going to be in this neck of the woods on July 8th.
Yes, I am. I will be there.
Have you ever been to Lake Norman before?
I have not.
Oh, hopefully you're gonna stay a couple of days.
Oh my gosh, the schedule is so crazy. I just come in for the one show and then I head out. Yeah, so unfortunately I'm not.
Well, they call Lake Norman the Great Inland Ocean because it is so huge that when you get out on that water, it's like you're out there on the ocean. And it's just and where you're going to be playing in Cornelius is just it's just magnetic. So I mean, this is going to be a great performance for you.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. I'm looking forward to that now.
I mean, your tour is taking you across the country. How do you even, prepare yourself for that? Because I mean, it's got to be demanding on the mind, body, and soul.
It is. I'm a pretty healthy guy. I work out when I'm here and at home, I work out 6 days a week and I eat really well. And as I'm sure too, being in our profession, we have to take really good care of our voices.
Yep.
So it's funny because when I perform, I I dance my butt off up there, and I'm in these little leather outfits, you know, and so it's funny, like preparing for these shows, I purposely don't fix the AC in my car because I always want to keep my body acclimated to sweating, you know, and because, man, I remember the first time, you know, like coming out of COVID, coming out of winter, living here in Utah, I did our first show, and I'm up on a stage with lights and leather outfits, and partway in, I'm like, wow, I'm not used to this heat. You know, it was like, I felt like a fighter that was in my corner going, oh my gosh, I can't go on, you know. It's like, get back out there, you know. So yeah, it really requires, like you said, a lot of mind, body, and soul.
So let me ask you a question, because I'm very spiritual when it comes to creativity. When you step into George Michael on George Michael Reborn, do you feel like that his energy is moving through you?
I'm glad you said that you are a spiritual person, because I am as well. And I always think people must just think I'm a nut job when I'm with what I'm going to answer that question with. And yes, I do. I really feel, you know, from the first time I ever heard George Michael's music back, you know, off of the Wham! Fantastic album, which was before Make It Big, I had a friend play that record for me because he said, you know, everybody was saying, you look like this new singer named George Michael from Wham! And I kept hearing that, but I never heard the music. And then when I was over his house, he played me the vinyl record, the song Bad Boys. And I immediately, it was the strangest spiritual experience. I fell in love with his voice and his music right in that instant. And I felt like I had been introduced to a long-lost brother. And I've admired wonderful voices over the years, but never connected with a voice like I had with his. And yeah, so it was immediately, I'd found like my musical home with my heart, you know?
Yeah. So who is your Andrew Ridgeley up on that stage when you're performing, or does he even make an appearance in any way?
We don't have anybody particularly on stage that, you know, takes on the role of Andrew. And, you know, it's funny, I recently just messaged Andrew Ridgeley. It's so cool how you can access people so easily on social media. I'm like, Andrew, this show is taking off. It's doing amazing. I think it would be a blast for you and I to do a few shows together. What do you think? So, you know, and I know that's a little bit crazy, but it's not completely out of the realm of possibility, because in 2019, you know, like I said, the show immediately took off. I got contacted by the manager of Dion Estes, who was the original bass player for Wham! And George Michael. So if you bring up a Wham! Video on, like, say, YouTube or whatever, you're going to see a really handsome man with dreadlocks just jamming out. He actually did duets with George, and he reached out to me. His manager said he wants to play a few shows, so the original bass player actually played a few shows with me.
Wow.
And he and I had, you know, we talked, became fast friends, and we talked about, hey, let's get Wham! Back together. Let's take this bigger. And then sadly, he passed away about 5 months ago. So there goes that dream, you know. Wow. But yeah, so we'll see. I won't be surprised if Andrew gets on board. You know,
that would be pretty cool. That would be a sight to see. So, Robert, where can people go to find out more information about you, to watch the videos, to experience the tour? Because I just know people want to see it.
Well, if you go to the website GeorgeMichaelReborn.com, you can have, you know, links to a lot of different videos. And, of course, you know, the typical YouTube thing, key in George Michael Reborn, and you'll find a lot of videos up there, live videos.
Well, when you come to the Carolinas, we got to get together. We got just so we can have a face-to-face conversation.
I would love that. Let me know, and I'll get you on the guest list for the show, and it would be great to have you there.
Excellent, man. Well, you be brilliant today, okay, Robert?
Hey, buddy, thanks for your time. It was a joy talking with you. Look forward to meeting you in person.